time came much quicker in the service than I expected. For those of you who do not know me, bend this around. I'm Wayne. I am the fourth of five. I would have been the youngest, except Brian came along 5 years later, ruined my parade. I'm not the thespian my brother is, but I will do the best I can to make a couple of points about Dad. Anytime you talk about Ed Ford, you have to talk about Ed and Marie, because basically they were inseparable. As she said, for 75 years he was at my right elbow. That's because he was worn out from the left elbow. If you had to put a theme song to Dad's life, it probably would be I Did It My Way, because he was an original. He had a lot of names. It was 40. He was Duke in a previous life in high school. Papa, Dad, Great Papa. 40 was the one that hung on him most of the time. But he was really steady Eddie. He was always there for us when we were kids growing up. He was at sporting events, band concerts, taking Marcia to dates before Richie popped up on the scene. And then somehow she always managed to get out on her own. I'm not sure how that worked. But he was always there. If something needed to be done, or if somebody needed a ride, or one of our friends needed something, he was there. Everything he did was based around his family. And I mean everything. Family was the whole deal to Dad. I don't think we realized that when we were younger, but as we grew older, it became very evident. Because when family got together, it was a circus, and he was the ringleader. Whether it was playing cards, Yahtzee, it didn't matter what it was, he was competitive. And then when he got all done, he'd say, okay, let's eat, because he liked to eat. But all the things we did when we were younger, when we went clamming to get sea clams, we thought we were getting them so we could eat, but most of them ended up here at the church fair. Fritter fries at the house. Blueberry picking, which we thought was child labor. It was, wasn't it? We couldn't leave. We'd go down to Hanson or Pembroke and we'd pick blueberries, and we couldn't leave until the bucket was full. And there better not be any stems or leaves in there either. So, all this kind of stuff that we did, working in the yard, going down to Grandma and Grandpa Ford's, and I was just a little tot then. They died when, I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't very old. Six? Thank you. The historian in the family. We'd get down there and work in the yard and do all the chores down there, and then Dad would make homemade root beer. And that was our big treat. We could take some homemade root beer back home and hope it didn't explode in the car on the way. That stuff was pretty volatile. But all of this stuff was building our character. We didn't know it, we didn't realize it, but it was there. And what we thought was child labor, working in the garden down behind the Churchy Webster's greenhouse, we had a garden the size of a greenhouse. And we had to go down there and weed it and till it and do all that stuff by hand. And I mean, he was a brutal taskmaster. Most people didn't realize. But all of our friends wanted to go and join us. We thought they were nuts. You know, we were out there working and they all thought it was great fun. Well, the reason they thought it was great fun was because they saw something that we didn't. To us, it was just growing up. To them, it was a loving family, and it was something that maybe they didn't have at their own house. And Mom and Dad would take them in just as if they were their own. Sunday dinner, every Sunday, you would be there. That wasn't a question. But the greatest gift Dad gave us was the gift of time. And I'm not talking about the longevity of his life. I'm talking about the entire life. He had an opportunity to go and work in Boston He didn't do it. He went to work at the Hingham Journal, a weekly newspaper in Hingham, because it was closer. And he wouldn't have to travel an hour and a half each way, so he could be home instead of driving on the highway. It was a huge sacrifice, and I don't think any of us realized what a sacrifice it was. We grew up in the little house. Those of you who live in town probably know the little house. It's out behind the garage in North Scituate. It was very, very small. And when I say very, very small, I mean very small. 2 girls in 1 bedroom, 3 boys in the other bedroom, a high dresser with a curtain between the 2 rooms. It was a big open doorway. And I could tell you about 3 hours worth of stories about that curtain. It was always fun. 1 bathroom, 7 people. I'll tell you, nowadays people would die if they had to work with 1 bathroom and 7 people. To us, it was normal. That was just the way it was. We didn't have a shower, so if somebody was in the tub and somebody had to use the bathroom, the cry of the day was, "Pull the curtain, I'm coming in." To us, it was normal. Mom and Dad slept on a hide-a-bed for 21 years in the living room. Try that out for privacy. Often wondered how he had 5 kids. He was really, really quiet. We grew up close. We had no choice but to grow up close. But it wasn't a chore. And our other friends, they knew what we had and they wanted it too. One of the notes that my mother received was from one of Marcia's high school friends. I'd like to share it with you. She says, "You both," meaning Mother and Dad, "taught me so much about family over the teen years. I'll never forget the camping, blueberry picking, clamming, etc. There always was room for one more in the back seat of your car to go anywhere. I never went to church with another family, not even my own. I always felt blessed to be part of the Ford family." So did we. And that car she's talking about was a 1949 Chevy Coupe 2-door. We'd head off to New Hampshire camping with a roof rack on top. It looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. Trunk filled up, 5 of us kids, always an extra. And the one that was acting up had to sit in front between Mother and Dad so Dad could get those elbows into you. And I have to say that was usually me. I got a bad rap, I really did, all the time. But people wanted to come to our house because it was fun. There was always something going on. He taught us life lessons through examples of sharing and caring. I remember Christmas, we didn't have a whole lot when we were young. Dad would go find a bicycle at the dump, sand it down, paint it up. You'd have a nice shiny bike under the tree. Things like that, and I never could figure out how he did it. That house was so small, he couldn't do it there. There's no way. But somehow he managed to get this stuff done. We never had excess, but we always had what we needed. Family night, that was always a joy. Pick your game and get ready. Yahtzee, we didn't care for Monopoly too much. That was pretty slow paced. But pitch, when Mike and Dad and Carol and I play a game of pitch, all the women would go in the other room because it got a little vicious at times. Carol, I swear, cheated.
Didn't need to.
But the whole family atmosphere has been passed on from generation to generation with us, with our kids, now grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Whenever the grandchildren, the 12, they're not apostles by any means. But the 12 get together for a project and everybody shows up. That's just the way it was. If something needed to be done at Mom and Dad's house, the whole family was there. And you talk about herding cats, that was it. I'm not going to talk, Sandra, about the day you turned the antenna around when Mike and I were up on the roof, but you know, things like that would always happen. There was always something that was going to happen. But he could do tough love too. And I need to share a story. This is a confession. I probably should have come to you, Ray, a long, long time ago. And fortunately, Mother doesn't hear very well, so maybe she won't hear this. I stole a pack of cigarettes from the drugstore. And it wasn't bad enough that I stole the cigarettes. Of course, I got caught. And I had to pay that back, and I got grounded and all the rest of it. But Dad was fair. You know, I knew what the punishment would be, and I could live with that. But he decided that I really shouldn't be smoking. So when he got home from work, and the famous line was always, "Wait till your father gets home." You knew that was going to happen sooner or later. So he went to the store and he bought a pack of cigars. And he got me on the washstand up in the back of the old garage. You remember the washstand, Glenn. And he sat me down up there and he says, "So you want to smoke, huh? You want to be a big guy and you want to smoke." And he lit up a cigar and he handed it to me and he said, "Take a puff of that." And of course I almost died. And I said, "Okay, I get the message." He said, "Oh, no you don't." He made me smoke 3 of those things until I got sick. But I have to say it worked because I never smoked my entire life. Other than one night in Pax River, and you remember that night, that was bad. That's another whole story. But I had a cigarette in each hand, had no idea how they got there. I think alcohol was involved, but it was those kind of things that he taught us. And really what it was accountability. He held us accountable. There's one other story I gotta tell you because it just killed me, it cracked me up. It was one of my crowning moments. Darryl came up with the ideas. He was the idea guy. I was the action guy. So we got this idea that we were gonna raise Cain in bed one night, and we'd get Dad so mad he'd come in and we would just like to stir him up. So we decided that we ought to put a cup of water over the door. So the little house was so small, I had to, this is where I got my training for recon, I think. I had to go out, sneak along the wall in the dining room, behind the dining room table, into the bathroom, get the cup of water, sneak back without being seen, which of course the living room was right there, and I mean, it's only 4 rooms in the whole house. And got back in, cracked the door open a little bit, put the cup of water strategically so it'd be right in the middle when he comes charging through the door. And then we proceeded to make all the noise we could until he got mad enough to come in. And he burst through the door and the cup of water falls down and hits him and gets him wet. And we thought that was the funniest thing that ever happened. He did not share our joy. But after he got finished beating us, and I gotta tell you this too, Darryl was older and at times a little smarter. He'd take the bottom bunk because Dad couldn't get a full backswing under the bottom bunk. And I was up on top, so I got the brunt of it. But it was pretty funny, and I know he was mad. God, he was so mad. Why he didn't kill us, I'll never know. But I do really, truly believe that when he walked out of that room and told my mother, "That little cuss," that was his favorite saying. I was the little cuss. He said, I just know in his heart he was just laughing, thinking, that was pretty darn clever, you know? Because that's the way he was. And as Marcia said, you know, that stern warning, I don't want to hear a peep out of this room. And as soon as he walked through the door, old Smarty over there would go, beep. And all hell would break loose. But he never did physical harm. He could whip you, but he always stopped on the edge. And I think a lot of what he did was because of his strong faith. And he had a much stronger faith than I think any of us ever realized. He was a whole lot deeper than most people realize. He was very active at church, obviously, in the community. He was always giving, always open. And he led and taught by example more than words. He wasn't a great orator, but he certainly led by example. especially the work ethic and the accountability. And we thank him for that. So I want you to picture Dad as he sits in his recliner, as he always did, with his legs crossed in an impossible way that I could never do. If I took yoga for 100 years, I couldn't cross my legs like he did. And he'd lean back in that chair. I don't know how many chairs he went through. He kept leaning and they all tipped. And he'd give you this, as Toby, where's Mr. Toby? He calls it the stink eye. And he'd look at you a little oddly, you know, and he'd nod his head, yeah. And you'd say, well, what do you think, Dad? He'd say, oh, I don't have an opinion. Well, you knew better than that, and you were going to get it. But that's where he lived, and that was his life, family. Just being in the middle of it and having us around. We moved from that little house up to the big house at 790. And as Marsha and I were talking last night, it wasn't all that big. But to us, it was a palace. It was huge. It had 3 bedrooms. It was cool. But it wasn't very big when we all got married and we all had kids and the grandchildren started coming and then the great-grandchildren. You couldn't move in there. But he was still the ringmaster, directing the circus. His favorite saying, if you were leaving his house, or if he was visiting you and getting ready to leave, he'd say, okay, Mother, let's go. And he'd say, bye, please. And off he'd go. Never could figure it out. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was him. It was his way of saying, we're done, we're leaving. And now it is our time to say, bye, please, Dad. And we love you.